two leading figures in the Trump administration had confrontations with the media. One on Sunday, you've probably seen this, but for those who haven't, you'll find it interesting. I think this Vice President Vance. There's a long-running leitmotif, a through line, since George Stephanopoulos left the Democratic politics to go be an anchor at ABC News. Often, if a Republican's feeling maybe a little under the gun or they don't like George's questions, they just lash out at George. Now, J.D. Vance did not say, hey, George, former Clinton advisor, but he all but said that in this confrontation at the very end of George's interview with Vance, where George spent, the vice president's right, a great deal of time asking him the same question over and over about the border czar's alleged acceptance of $50,000 of taxpayer money. I don't know why George didn't make the point about it being taxpayer money. That seemed to me to be the most important thing. But here's the end of that exchange.
So you don't, what was caught on the tape, you're saying right now you don't know whether or not he kept that money.
I don't know what tape you're referring to, George. I saw media reports that Tom Homan accepted a bribe. There's no evidence of that. And here's, George, why fewer and fewer people watch your program and why you're losing credibility. Because you're talking for now 5 minutes with the Vice President of the United States about this story regarding Tom Homan, a story that I've read about, but I don't even know the video that you're talking about. Meanwhile, low-income women can't get food because the Democrats and Chuck Schumer have shut down the government. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer has shut down the government. You are focused on a bogus story. You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong instead of focusing on the fact that our country is struggling because our government's shut down. Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It's not a weird left-wing rabbit hole. I didn't insinuate anything. I asked you whether Tom Homan accepted $50,000, as was heard on an audio tape recorded by the FBI in September 2024, and you did not answer the question. Thank you for your time this morning.
No, George, I said that I don't.
Up next, we'll be right back.
Steamrolled right over. Guys, a quick question before we show one more piece of tape. Is this a better band name or book title? Weird Left-Wing Rabbit Hole. Band name or book title? Dan, band name or book title?
Band name.
Band
Sean?
name. Band.
I think it's a good book title. All right, here is Donald Trump also on Sunday on Air Force One. He's talking to Dasha Burns, former NBC News correspondent, hired by Politico to host their Sunday podcast. They call it a Sunday show, I think. And she's asking the president a lot of questions. And all of a sudden, the president realizes he claims he doesn't know who Dasha Burns is, and he doesn't like her questions. And then he expresses his macro view of the Politico. Roll that, please.
On China, are you considering walking that back?
Who are you with?
Politico, Dasha Burns, sir.
Dasha Politico. Politico's gone bad. They've been so wrong about everything. Politico. Politico has been so wrong about everything. Let's get somebody else to ask some questions. You mind? Is that all right? Because Politico is fake news.
The president's also very unhappy with Time Magazine. This is the least surprising Trump story I've ever reported. The president very happy to be on the cover because he loves being on covers, but he doesn't like the picture. Time Magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. This is a Truth Social post. Really weird. I never like taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? And the headline is his triumph. It's a very favorable story. The president yesterday at one of his media events in the Middle East said he'd been watching a lot of the coverage on the plane and he liked the coverage of the trip. But again, this is from Hegseth to Vance to Trump. Dan, what's the state of the Trump administration's relationship with what this reporter calls the dominant media?
Well, I think in 2.0, the entire team has adopted Trump's mentality, which is just when you don't like the questions, go on the offense and attack in very personal and aggressive terms. And you always ask yourself, if you behaved that way at work or you behaved that way in front of your kids, how would you feel? to me, it's an unprofessional, like, jerk move. It just is. Like, they, in Pam Bondi, in her hearing, right, whether it's JD Vance, Donald Trump, of course he knows who Dasha Burns is. It's to belittle. It's to make her feel small. It's to make her feel irrelevant. It's to hit her and put her down. And I thought JD Vance, it's the same thing. He's just trying to insult him and put him down. I mean, look, it is what it is. They're not going to change. But nobody would, if we behaved that way, if you were in a corporate setting and you behaved that way, you would be in trouble.
I thought he was very polite to Dasha, by the way.
Yeah. Do you know what Monty Burns would say about Dasha Burns, right? She'd say, Dasha Burns, doesn't ring a bell. That's what he'd say.
Well, first of all, I don't know why it's somehow we're supposed to just sit back and take it. Like, here's another.
But George was asking the vice president. Here you have a senior member of the administration. Well, but he never answered. The senior member of the administration reportedly, and I haven't heard anybody dispute the reporting. It's not the worst Mr. Burns imitation ever. My son's is worse. Thank you very much. I glanced at the chat. I should have done it. He got $50,000 reportedly, caught on audio tape from my tax money. My tax money paid for that 50 grand. So it wasn't a private bribe. It was a setup. It was a sting. So I want to know, as just my former colleague George Stephanopoulos, where's my 50,000? Is it still in the pocket of Tom Homan, or did he return it? It seems like a legitimate question.
Sure. Okay. First of all, fair enough, right? So you can ask a question. If I tell you at some point, and there's plenty of stuff like people, issues, I'll say, hey, that's an interesting question. I don't know. He said, I haven't seen the video. Right. I don't know. And he goes, but you have to answer this question. And what JD said is, here's what I do know. He was cleared. So that's what I cared about.
Not true. Not true that he's been cleared.
Well, he wasn't charged. He wasn't charged.
Trump came into office.
But all
not been cleared.
Well, the FBI said that
if you're a reporter and you ask a question and you don't get an answer, you face a choice about how long to persist. Right. And usually my role is
how many times we're all watchers of that show and of other Sunday shows.
Yeah.
Name one time a Democrat has been followed up with more than twice on any question before the host moved on. JD made his point. He didn't know what the video was.
Well, he didn't want to answer the question.
Stephanopoulos wanted a soundbite.
I would have said,
when he chose to answer the question at the end, he cut him off.
Yeah. Greg Kelly has texted me to say that the money comes from federal seizures, not from the tax money. But I say to you, Greg, all money is fungible. All money is fungible. Look,
I just think it's a bad look.
I would like the vice president to be a guardian of our money. I don't care if it came from seizures. I want him to be a guardian of our money. He should be curious about where that money went, not dodging the question. That's
Look, I'll say this: when Kamala Harris dodged questions to Brett Baer, the right went nuts.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
just again, Trump does bully ball. It's just what he does.
Let me ask you this to close out our media section, which is again, they're wildly popular with the community,
with the kids.
Should Democrats, if you're running for president in 2028, should you adopt this as part of your arsenal to go after the media when you don't like what they're doing? Should that be part of what Democrats?
They're part of your party. So if you want to,
but they aren't any. But they are less and less.
That's not true. Yeah,
they are less and less.
Disagree. I mean, look, my advice is you need to be who you are. Right? Trump is an authentic bully. Like so his whole team is bullies because it's an audition for one.
Well,
sadly, Mark, I think you're right. Yeah. I do think that the base is going to demand the same punch in the face attitude. Again, I think it's just unprofessional.
But if you do it, if you do it on the merits, I think it's okay. So, for instance, Sanders does it. Bernie Sanders, if you ask him superficial questions, if you ask him about gossip or personality, he'll say, quite frankly, you should be asking me about poverty. And the mood of the Sanders wing of the party is the press is horrible. So
I agree.
So I don't think it has to be like authentic. I think it can be authentic.
But the difference between the right and the left is the folks on the left think that the media isn't enough in their pocket. That's the problem. Yeah. That's the big difference.
Well, no, sometimes they think
we're like you're against us. They're like you don't like us enough.
Sometimes they think they're not tough enough on Trump, or they're too corporate, or as Sanders does, that they're not focused enough on the right issues. And all of those have some truth to them.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.